Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bantamweight Boxing Podcast. Pound for pound, the number one boxing podcast around. I'm your host, Michael Waite, and joined with me today are just two of my Waite brothers. We've got Jim and Joe. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Evening, chaps.
And Jim, say hello.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show.
So we are without Yoan today, which is fairly fortunate because it means we might get some boxing chat actually done. So let's get into it. We're talking about Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams. Their fight is going to be this Saturday, and it's set to be a stormer. So I'm going to kick it off and give a little bit of my kind of analysis of the fight, what I see happening, and then we'll get into some questions with the other two and kind of get their opinions on the fight. So first of all, Eubank versus Williams, I think it's a great fight. I think it's a massive British fight. You know, it's one of those that shows you don't always need to have a world title on the line for it to be an exciting fight. I think it's going to be very competitive. I think both fighters have shown that at the elite level, at the proper world level, they've not really been able to, hang there. Liam Williams recently losing to Andrade for a world title fight. And also we've seen Eubank fighting, the likes of Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, who would say are kind of, at the top level and falling short. Nevertheless, both two very serious fighters, no jokes. And it's going to be a really entertaining one. So I'm going to kick it off with how I see it kind of going. Now, first of all, we've got Eubank. Eubank, have we seen before? Not the best technically in terms of boxing, not great jab, struggles when his opponent has a good jab, as we've seen in the Groves fight, but a good pressure fighter, very powerful, good chin, and lots of heart. Now, Liam Williams, I could pretty much mimic those kind of same things. I think, again, a strong fighter, a lot of power on him, Liam Williams, and he likes to come forward, likes to fight. So if I, in terms of me seeing how this fight kind of plays out, I'd say I'd probably say Chris Eubank is the better at what he does out of the two. And I think Williams will come forward. Eubank, I think, will, pretty much light him up. I think give him a lot of problems. And I'm betting myself with a kind of Eubank unanimous decision, or not Eubank decision, not necessarily unanimous. I don't think either of the fighters is going to get knocked out, because I just think they both got good chins, a lot of heart, and but I'm seeing a Eubank decision. Jim, what do you make of my breakdown there?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what impact the Cardiff crowd have on Eubank. He hasn't fought in a while. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely buzzing Saturday night, South Wales, home crowd. It'd be interesting to see how he deals with that pressure. So the pressure's all on Eubank. He's the favourite. He's the man that is going to go on to bigger and better things ultimately after this fight, if he can clinch the victory. I think with Eubank, the question mark still remains, can he win a world title? I think he can. I think with Roy Jones Jr. in his corner, he's looked a lot better in his last few fights, but there's a bit of ring rust there, so it'll be interesting to see. It's all up for grabs. It's going to be exciting. I think it'll be a really, really good fight. I think it's two hard, heavy-hitting punches. There's seems like genuine bad blood between them. So
let's touch on Roy Jones Jr. for a second, because I think that's a good place to start with Eubank being trained by him now. He's had about, I think, 3 fights or so under him. What we've seen with that training is, Eubank. I think Roy Jones Jr. Has tried to kind of calm Eubank down a little bit and improve on his kind of boxing fundamentals, his jab and all of that, trying to get him to move a little bit more and probably being a little bit less of a pressure fighter. We've seen Eubank do it when he gets someone hurt. He blows out, throwing a load of punches. Do you think, Joe, that kind of style now of using his boxing is going to be a detriment or help him against Williams?
I think in fights like the one against Williams, where he's the favourite, I think a bit more sort of game management and doing the basics correctly will help him. He won't lose his head. As Jimmy said, there is bad blood. There seems like there's genuine sort of hatred between them. If he applies himself and uses his boxing ability, then he'll be able, I think, comfortably to win the fight. So in that regard, I think having a more composed approach would do him some favors.
Do you think if he went for that more composed approach, but then Williams, there's also a lot of talk about what approach Williams is going to take, because I would say technically he's probably a slightly better fighter in terms of, I think he's got a bit of a better jab and etc. Probably moves a little bit better. You know, he's been boxing a lot longer. If Williams adopts that style rather than going for his normal kind of pressure fighting style, and then almost we get a bit of a more technical fight, a more, you know, where they're relying on their jabs, do you think that could negatively affect Eubank, considering he struggles a lot with dealing with the jab?
Yeah, potentially. Like you said, in the Groves fight, found him out really. Just couldn't the jab. He couldn't get anything going. Couldn't land any sort of combinations or anything. Couldn't break Groves' rhythm. And yeah, you can see Williams. I don't think Williams will go for that approach at all. I think in Cardiff, I think he's going there to put on a mean show and try and get him out of there. But it'll be tough. It'll be tough to do, because
I can't see Williams winning that fight on points. I think you know, he's gonna go for it. I think he's gonna outbox Eubank over 12 rounds.
And they're both quite durable men as well, so it should be both got a lot of heart. So it'll be a good fight, I think.
The Eubank fight I'm looking forward to on Saturday is not the Chris Eubank fight. It's the Harlem Eubank fight.
Oh yeah, he is fighting on the undercard. It's
so special that people are so scared to fight him. They haven't even announced the opponent yet.
And he's still undefeated. Unlike
I reckon if you're in the crowd and you shout loud enough, you might get in the ring with him.
Yeah. They probably will be looking for people on the night after they've had a few drinks as well. But another thing I thought about looking at as well is the last two opponents they both had. So Eubank last fought, I can't remember his name now, but
very difficult one to pronounce.
Quite a difficult one to pronounce, so I'll probably leave that before I piss some people off. But
yeah,
not a very well-known fighter. We can pretty much say a bit of
I think his name was Wanik Wujian.
Yeah, that sounded perfect.
Yeah.
So slightly unknown fighter, a bit of a giveaway, a bit of a cherry pick. However, when you look at Liam Williams, he went in against a world title fighter, Andrade, you know, very talented fighter. Who do you think that's going to benefit, Jim? Do you think Liam Williams, he took a lot of punishment in that fight, got knocked down in the second round? Would you rather be the fresher fighter without the kind of hardened experience, or coming off the back of a big fight against Andrade going into this fight?
I think the fight against Andrade will put him in good stead for the Eubank fight. I have to say, you know, when you got up a level, and undoubtedly Andrade was another level, you learn more about yourself as a boxer. You know, you understand it a bit more. I think if you're just knocking people out, which he has done for a lot of his career, I think you learn more actually after a defeat than you do a victory. So I think he goes in, I think it's an advantage for him. I really do.
I see. So in terms of your kind of views and how you guys see the fight going, what would you say, Joe? What if you were trying to envision it right now, how do you see that fight going?
See quite a slow start, quite a tense start. I think Eubank will pick up points as the rounds go, and then I think by like 9 he'll knock him out. That's how I see it going.
Fair enough. And Jim
will grow into it.
Yeah,
Eubank will.
I think similar to Joe, I think it will be a Eubank knockout, but I think I think he's going to go for it early on. I think Eubank is at the point of his career now where it's all or nothing. You know, he's getting to that point now where if he wants the Golovkin fight, the Canelo fight, if he can't beat Williams on points and expect to get those fights, he's going to have to absolutely knock him out and really put on a show. And he knows that. He said that in all the build up to the fight. He needs to put on a show, and he needs to get him out of there quickly in his own backyard, do it in style. I think he will.
But do you think if he adopts that approach, then that leaves him quite vulnerable for a kind of brawler fighter?
Yeah,
I think Liam Williams.
I think he's always going to be vulnerable. He's never had a particularly good defense, Eubank Jr. He's got a lot of speed. He's a great athlete, but he's never been a particularly defensive fighter. He's always been caught. And I think, the best way for his offense, for his defense or his offense, he's just got to go for it. And I think he is probably the better fighter out of the two.
Yeah.
And I think he's just got, I think if he allows Williams to build momentum with the home crowd, he could start getting in dangerous territory. He wants to subdue that crowd early on, impose himself, center of the ring, be on the front foot, and really, put on the display that we know he can. But yeah, I think with Eubank, I'd worry if it plays out how Joe's saying. I would worry about Eubank. He's a great athlete, but he could tire towards the end if it goes on for too long, because Williams is a warrior. He is a warrior and he's got power. So if it goes late, it might favor Williams.
We've all predicted then for Eubank to win it. I think we're all kind of comfortable with that. I think it's gonna be a very close fight, but I think they're both just very similar fighters. And I just think Eubank's just a bit bigger, a bit stronger, a bit faster. So I think he's gonna nick it. But then if we were in Williams' corner then and we're helping him out, what approach does he need to take? How does he win this fight then if we're quite certain that Eubank would take it? Because if I was to say, I would be like, the blueprints are there to beat Eubank. He can't box technically, make it a boxing match, but then use the pressure when you have to. Because, we see in Eubank, he's got incredible stamina and he'll go at you for the whole fight. So unless you're a very good fighter, you're going to struggle to stay on that jab all fight and, behind that jab all fight. And I don't think Williams would be able to do that. But I could definitely see if he kind of from the get-go, rather than coming out, walking straight in, gloves, earmuffs on, walking straight at Eubank, if he made it a bit more of a chess match and then engage when he had to, because I think if he comes at Eubank in that way, hands up, walking straight at him, I think it's easy work for Eubank. It's exactly what he wants. What do you guys think? Did you think?
I think Williams' strength, a bit like Eubank, is he throws quick, good combinations. He's got a lovely uppercut, and that's where he's managed to get a lot of his previous opponents out of the ring early. Is he's landed some quick jab, 1-2s, bang to the body. And I think, everyone's susceptible to those body shots. And I think if he can, again, just get the momentum and unload those combinations, I think that is really the key. He's got to box smart. I don't think he can go for the war of attrition and go for a firefight, because I think, as we discussed, I think toe-to-toe, Eubank shades it. But if he can get Eubank to miss and unload those combinations, get the crowd going, get that momentum, who knows? He could nick it on the scorecards. I struggle to see him knocking out Eubank, but you just don't know. I think it's going to be a bloody good fight.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I can see the knockout happening, just because Eubank's been in there with some monsters, like Groves and stuff like that. We've had him really hurt and just not been able to finish him off. And I just don't see Williams being able to do that. But I wouldn't be surprised if either won on points. I wouldn't be surprised. But I think Eubank, although he's not in his home crowd, I think he's always going to have a bit of an advantage on the scorecards, because, people want him ultimately to win that fight because there's just bigger ones to be made. But yeah, nevertheless, I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. So I think we've all given our predictions for that fight. I think, looks like on this side, we think Eubank's going to take the win, but who knows? We'll have to see. It's going to be a cracker. Stylistically, I hope they both come toe to toe, and we'll get a great fight. But who knows? I think the winner of this fight is going to be the person who adopts the correct game plan. I think it's how they fight the fight, and I think it'll be interesting to see if Eubank listens to his trainer, or the influence that Roy Jones has on him, because I think the old Eubank and his old style is actually perfect for this fight. But if he tries, something new, I think it could have a negative effect. Anyway, I think that's a nice place to wrap it up. We'll be back next week where we'll probably be talking about the kind of post-fight, how we thought this fight went. You know, hopefully we've got the predictions slightly close. We'll see. And yeah, we should be talking again a little bit about Kell Brook and Amir Khan as we get close to that fight. Anyway, if everyone wants to sign out, say a little goodbye.
Thanks for listening, guys. Stay safe and enjoy the fight on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe, drop a comment, and good night.